Will we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Bob, would you like to lead us? Sure.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This meeting has been posted in accordance with the Wisconsin meeting laws. Attendance roll call has already been taken. Approval of the agenda was already taken. We'll move into vouchers payable. I have a motion.
For the consent agenda.
Consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion?
I couldn't hear who moved.
Oh, budget.
Any discussion? Does this come up out here for a moment too?
Let's try and do a voice vote. We could probably just do a voice vote. That's good.
Just do a voice vote. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Superintendent's report.
I have two items. The first is congratulations out to all of the 2014 graduates. The graduation ceremony was on Saturday afternoon, a new day and time for Muskegon Norway Schools, and it worked out very well. And also congratulations to the high school administration for yet another outstanding, well-organized, really touching ceremony. And Lisa Warwick did the board speech for the graduates and did a fabulous job, so thank you for stepping up and doing that.
Thank you, Dr.
Absolutely. The second item is just the board goal end of the year summary. I did include that in the board packet. We had 3 board goals for this last year. Just to summarize, it is all in the packet. The first had to do with responsible resource stewardship. The 3 elements under there was to establish a system-wide safety program. Thank you, Mr. Jeremiah Johnson, for leading that effort. We also have a sustainable staff compensation model that we've been working on over this next year, and that goal will continue into next year. And the third part of this first goal is looking for self-funding opportunities for our insurances. We did go to self-funding for our dental, and we are waiting to have better experience to pursue the health insurance, and we will be beginning a next year to establish that. Our second goal had to do with our teaching and learning area of rigor and relevance related to the depths of knowledge that our teachers went through quite a bit of training on, and so the board did receive some training on that as well. And the third goal was board governance. We looked at various governance models throughout the year. We did choose a policy procedure with a company called Neola. And we adjusted just a bit our board meetings for next year, which included an alternating 1 board meeting a month to 2 board meetings a month, and we moved up the time to 7 o'clock. We had quite a bit of discussion about committee work and things like that. So at this point, we were able to accomplish the goals that we set forth for this year, and we'll be working on our goals for 14-15 over the summer, and again, just extended individual meeting opportunity for any board member who's interested on the dates that I emailed out. I'd be happy to sit down and talk with each board member to establish those. And that ends the superintendent's report.
Thank you. The president is excused tonight, so there will be no president's report. Board member reports.
I just wanted to reiterate Dr. Thompson's comments. Again, it was just a thrill to hand out the diplomas at the high school graduation. They have such a lovely tone of wonderful decorum led by the administration. The place looks gorgeous. There's the flower baskets. The stage was beautiful. You know, it's just so nice to be a part of such a great, happy, wonderful success story, to see a sea of red out there, and some of them here tonight. Very pleased to be graduates from the district, and it's like clockwork, right? So everybody around me, you know, was commenting on, wow, we got in ahead of time. That's super. So again, so well done, and it was such a great part to be a part of that. It was wonderful.
I'd just like to add to that, yes, graduation, it's always a pleasure to be there. This year was really a great pleasure for myself, and I'm sure Lisa, because we each had students graduating. And Lisa did a very wonderful job. In fact, it tied in really well with our valedictorian speech.
Yes, weirdly enough.
Yeah, kindergarten's a great time.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And I also like to congratulate the girls soccer team for making the first ever Muskego girls soccer team trip to the state tournament. So good luck.
Any other board member reports? Business Services Committee report.
We did not meet. There is no report.
Educational Services Committee report. We did not meet tonight. There is no report. Student representation. We have none tonight. Their student council is at their conference/training session at Country Springs Hotel in Pewaukee tonight. Public forum. If anybody would like to speak to the school board at this time, they may. If it's an agenda item that's on our agenda for tonight, you can speak at the time of the agenda item when it's brought up. That's probably a more appropriate place to speak about that. All I need you to do is on the back table, there's a card. Just fill out the card with what item you want to speak about, your name, and hand them to Dar, and she will get those to me at the time of the agenda item. If it's not an agendized item, you can come up now and speak to us. We respond back to you at this time if it's not an agenda item. So would anybody like to speak during public forum for non-agenda items? Second call? Third call? Okay, we'll move forward. Resolution action items. First one is administrative hire.
Motion to approve Gary Gales for the position of Assistant Superintendent of Continuous Improvement as discussed in closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Okay, Gary's here if you'd like.
You bet.
Gary, if you'd like to come to the
Anyone
mic.
else, please step up. Welcome.
Hello again, Gary.
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to thank the board, ESC leaders, and community members for your support of my service as Country Meadows principal for the last 8 years. As I've mentioned many times, they've been the best 8 years of my professional career, and I'm really excited to be able to transition into this role as Assistant Superintendent of Continuous Improvement. I'm really looking most forward to supporting the wonderful teaching and learning that's happening in the classrooms every single day. I'm looking forward to attracting and retaining the highest quality educators. I'm looking forward to working really closely, honestly, with the board and ESC leaders as well as principals and teachers. And it's really all about continuous improvement. That's in the title of the role, and really that's what's foundational, I believe, to what our system needs, which is continuously improving to get better. So my main role is to support teachers and principals and make sure that they are on a journey of continuous improvement, ultimately, which has to impact student achievement. So we've seen some results at Country Meadows. I'm very honored and humbled by those, and I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to have an impact across the district, and of course at the end of the day impact student learning. And I really do appreciate the opportunity, pending your approval, to serve in this role. Do you have any questions for me? Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Gary.
Any further discussion? Okay.
Do you want to vote online?
We can, sure. If you would like us to, we can. We're working on our new online system, so be patient with us.
Please. What's the suspense, Gary?
Motion is approved, 6-0. Congratulations. Okay. Our second item under resolution action items, use of tobacco, nicotine, and other related products, policy number 5512, third reading.
Motion to approve policy 5512, use of tobacco, nicotine, and related products by students.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second. Discussion?
There's no change to the policy, so this was the same policy that you read last two times.
Julie, would you just like to highlight what the initial changes were that we went down this road? I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, a little bit. That's okay. The policy itself, what we wanted to do with this policy was to make sure that we are encompassing all the different changes that come along with tobacco, nicotine, and related products. So some of the vapor cigarettes and some of those other things, we wanted to make sure that we were including those as part of our policy for the district. So that was the main change behind it.
E-cigarettes.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Questions? Comments? Okay, it's the final reading, so we'll take a vote on this tonight. We're going to have this perfected by September.
Yeah.
So, click, click. Okay, motion is approved, 6-0. Next item under resolution action items is Family Medical Leave Act, policy 1630.01. 13, I'll just let you do that. Clerk, go ahead.
Motion to approve policy 1630.01, family and medical leave of absence, which is FMLA, for administration. Policy 3430.01, FMLA for professional staff. And policy 4430.01, FMLA for support staff.
Third reading. Motion.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Discussion?
This also is the third reading of a policy that had no changes since the initial time that the board has seen this. We're bringing this forward for the board because we do not currently have a policy in place for FMLA. We have practices that are part of the handbooks, so we are now putting it forward as an official policy.
Questions? Okay, you can vote. Tony, we should probably have some like music during the voting period.
Yeah.
Motion approved, 6-0. Next item under resolution action items is grade 6 through 8 mathematics resources.
Motion to approve the mid-level math resources as presented.
Motion,
So moved.
second.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
Lisa Safago is here and actually worked with the ESC committee meeting at our last meeting regarding these items. And so if you want to just...
Sure, thank you. The only change from what was in your information at the last board meeting is an attachment called the 16-14 math progressions, grades 4 through 9. And what I did was just made the information a little bit more clear for our families and students. Math progression C kind of had 2 lanes in it for our kids, and I broke that into a progression C and a progression D, just to be more clear for our, more readable. So the chart changed slightly in that regard, otherwise the information remains the same.
Julie or Lisa, do you want to talk about the document financials on it? It looks like it's changed a little bit also.
No, that's the same that was in the packet
Okay.
last time.
Okay, I thought it was higher than 85,000. Okay.
Nope.
What's the total complimentary? What does that mean?
They actually, when you purchase large orders like this, they'll give you complimentary teacher resources a lot of times, or they might give you workbooks, things of that nature.
And they price it out so
Yeah.
you can see. Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Lisa, when we're making such a major purchase, is there some thought to like the longevity of this, like when we would be coming back around this?
This is, we'll run a 6-year cycle,
Okay.
and so at the end of the 6th year, then we would go into a study of what our next steps might be.
Okay.
So at least 6 years.
All right. Thank you.
We did talk a lot during educational services about the workbooks and the need for additional purchasing and what they could do in the classroom and at home to possibly not use the workbooks or be cautious with these workbooks. And everything that's in the workbook is also available online and can also be printed out online. So there are some ways that the teachers most likely will be instructed to try to use the resources as well as possible so that we're not tearing one page out of a 400-page workbook and then not being able to use it again.
Because the students aren't purchasing those individually to use each year. That's supposed to be a resource that goes from year to year.
I'm pretty sure that you're going to have to buy some additional each year, correct?
The workbook right now is a disposable item.
Okay.
We'll buy them this first year, determine whether or not that's really a need. That we have the Chromebooks now, so we'll determine how much we can use the Chromebooks and how much we can use the workbooks. So we'll scale back on the workbooks, I anticipate, in the future.
Any other discussion? Okay, we can vote. Motion carries 6-0. Next item on resolution action items is health insurance consultant recommendation.
Motion to approve Hayes Companies of Wisconsin as insurance consultant for the period of July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2016 at a cost of $47,500.
So moved.
Second? Bob? Discussion.
This item was brought to the Business Services Committee at the last meeting, and the district utilizes a health insurance consultant for a number of things. One of the main things actually right now is the health care reform guidance, but also strategic planning and looking at benefits designed for the district. They would assist us in, as we move again towards self-funding for health insurance, to analyze our experience and make sure we're prepared financially to do so. They are also a partner with us when we look at moving forward with employee wellness and communication of our total rewards compensation, to look at the benefit side so that employees are very well of what their benefits are. And again, we have utilized a different company for the last couple of years, and we went out to bid and got quotes and interviewed 5 different companies, and Hayes came out on top. And actually, Dr. Thompson and Carol Cottingham, who's our comptroller, who works mainly with the health insurance and the dental insurance, was part of that committee to interview those various vendors. So our recommendation is Hayes, and we do have representatives Ryan Jackson and Sarah Hamas from Hayes, if you had any questions for them.
Questions? Okay.
I have a question. Sure. Can one of you step up to Mike and speak to the your efforts in a wellness program with regards to a wellness program and how we would initiate that and how you foresee that going forward?
Certainly.
At Hayes Companies, we have a full-time person, Amy Vitale, who is our wellness consultant, and she is devoted to our clients just in the Milwaukee office to help Ryan and I talk to our clients about that. And Amy is available to, as well as the rest of us, to give ideas, to work with the committee, to set goals and objectives, and then help carry those forward. We come up with actual ideas, programs. We've got a couple of them. One is around the holidays, no pain, no gain. We're all, kind of, we don't want to put on weight, so we have a program out there to make people just a little bit more attentive, or walk like you mean it, programs like that. Personally, I think wellness is the next frontier. I mean, it's here already, but people have to take responsibility for their own personal health, or more responsibility, and we can, help you with strategies to do that. It may even lead to more interesting things like, having an on-site clinic or sharing one with another either a public sector group or possibly even a private sector. We've got about 11 other districts right now that we're working with, as well as our other private sector clients. And I would say, I'm just throwing this out, but 70 to 80% of them have some sort of a wellness program, and we're always, encouraging them to, keep looking at more ways to get people interested and accountable.
You mentioned the on-site clinics, and I know that that is being done in the private sector. Is it being done in the public sector?
Absolutely, it's being done in the public sector. I know the city of Racine has one. City of Kenosha has a clinic. The Waukesha School District, County, and City have chosen a vendor to set up a clinic for them as well. So it's gaining popularity by leaps and bounds. And I should clarify that as little as 2 years ago, as short as 2 years ago, if you didn't have at least 1,000 employees, it didn't seem viable. But the landscape has changed dramatically, and today it's very viable for a size of this district. You might want to share it so it's open more hours. It's not going to be a 40-hour a week clinic for the population you have here. But if you partner with somebody else, it easily could be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions? Thank you. All right, we're ready to vote. Motion carries 6-0. Next item, resolution action items, technology device lease. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve a multi-year lease for technology devices through Providence Capital, starting with the 2014-2015 school year.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion.
So Tony's been working on this lease agreement for a while and being very diligent about finding a way to save additional money. So, Tony, if you want to give an overview of your process.
Yeah, certainly. So the pieces to the puzzle are the device, the actual Chromebook itself, the Google management license. So we pay to enroll these devices into our management console so that we can actually have access to force Google safe search, safe browsing, etc., and keep track of the device in terms of making sure it's logged into our system. The other thing is we also have the case. The case has been very popular. I would say in some instances at the middle school we're seeing it put over the back of chairs as a way to store it away from the desktop, so that's been very nice. So we looked for alternatives, and after all that shopping, we didn't find many alternatives that could offer the same, basically the same options as we have now with the current case. So at the high school, we are considering a sleeve going forward at some point. We did notice that at the high school, they're more inclined to want to remove it from the case. The case that we currently have now is actually designed to keep the device in the case. Last but not least, we have more wireless that we need to add to our buildings. In essence, we have still areas of our buildings across the district, including the middle school and the high school, that aren't covered well. And to do that, we want to make sure that we're covering ahead of time rather than waiting until we experience some pain that way. My goal was to really go to bat on the vendors and say, look, we need to do better with this pricing. We're buying a very large quantity of devices. We want to make sure that we're actually taken care of. And so I will have to admit that that negotiation took more time, but it was valuable for us. Net differential between last year's costs for the same materials and this was $90,000. So that's a savings that we're not spending over the course of this lease. And that's a bit of perpetuity because what pricing we have now, we can also take advantage of that pricing in the future. So that was in all parts. Again, the device cost, Google management, the case, and wireless. So basically looking for Providence Capital to once again finance the lease as they've done in the past for us. We do have the option through Providence to do a buyback. In our case, we're looking to have the device be in the hands of the students after the 4 years. So that doesn't necessarily serve a large purpose to us, but there are some devices that we have that aren't in the one-to-one, particularly at our elementary schools, so that will benefit us going forward. So again, it's not for the masses that we're buying, but it is for some of the devices.
Is there still insurance option for students?
Great question. So we're looking to change the insurance option from using Worth Avenue Group, which is a third-party insurance company, to being self-funded. So in other words, we're going to use what's called the Samsung Self-Maintainer Program, and we'll have students and staff do the repairs here on site. So that means a lot less time for turnaround in terms of repair, and also we're educating our students on how to do the repairs. It's nice to be able to look on the inside every once in a while. And last but not least, the insurance monies that we may collect over and above that we don't use in a year simply goes back into the system to help fund those devices going forward.
And are people enrolling in the insurance program?
The average was about 65%. So it was a pretty good number.
Have we had a lost Chromebook that is not enrolled in the insurance program? And
You mean have people damaged a device? Yes.
And how have we handled that?
Well, in some cases, the most we've charged a family is $100. We didn't want any family to feel like they were going to be pinned against the wall with the full amount of the device. I mean, if something was intentionally done, that's a different story, that's vandalism. But in the cases of accidental damage, which is the situation I'm talking about, we capped it. So that way, yeah, there's still skin in the game. I mean, $100 is a relevant amount of money, but it's not the full cost of the device. And in that case, that student was provided a new device in exchange. So.
And what's the insurance cost per year?
$30 per year. It is elective, so families have the choice. you know, the thing that I've always mentioned, and it's based on experience that I'm saying this, it's not always how responsible your son or daughter is. Sometimes it's the elements beyond their control. And that's the part that also gives you that insurance too.
Maybe we could think about if we end up with a surplus for the insurance, for adjusting the rates each year.
Sure.
Kind of, so we could drop it back to maybe 25 if we end up with surplus, if we end up behind, being off. I think the more affordable we make that insurance, if we're breaking even, I think that's our goal.
Yeah,
make sure that the items in their hands, and if we can make that insurance affordable, more affordable, maybe we'll get a better percentage of students in the program.
Okay.
It might be a better idea, because if you're trying to adjust it each year, you know, it could be tough, because one year it's 20 and next year it's 30. Possibly having a, I don't want to say a rebate, but adjusting some of that back. So if we found out that we could have gotten by with 25 a unit, anybody's in the program, you get $5 back, or $5 credit to the next year's. That would not work.
That's a lot of bookkeeping.
It's a lot.
But workable. I mean,
I'm going to guess after the first or second year, it's going to be pretty firm at a certain dollar amount.
Yeah.
Sure. And we can settle. The device itself isn't very expensive. I mean, our net cost right now for the actual device itself is $120. So that's pretty low. And so we can certainly adjust. Noting that we're self-insuring, we thought we'd offer it the same amount, just so there was an easier transition, but certainly we can amend over time.
So the insurance amount is what?
$30.
So it's either 30 or 100. I mean, that's the net effect. If you're a parent, you're going to pay the 30, or you're going to gamble paying the 100.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and there are those. I mean, most of our students do not have issues, but we have about 10 to 15%.
For a fifth grader, it's probably a good 30.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if there is damage and they don't have insurance, is that, I mean, there is a charge, or is this a negotiation that just, well, don't do it again? I mean, are we holding it to that then, so those who don't take insurance have to pay?
Yes, that's the point. And again, I think what will happen is an instance to actually do a physical screen replacement. Just the screen, which is the most often repaired item that we've had to do, it's about $50. And that's to actually have it shipped in about 10 minutes, we could swap out the screen. So we have that repair. In the case of the $100 repair, it was water damage. The device was almost completely submerged in water. So it was a total loss.
That would be $100 potentially a number of times. If they damage 2 or 3 units and they don't have insurance.
Could be. We'd hope after the first time they wouldn't get close to the water again, but certainly, but otherwise it's just the actual cost. Another popular item, unfortunately popular, I take that with a grain of salt, was the power cord. And that's about a $15 exchange. So that is covered by insurance, but at the same time, if families don't have the insurance, that would be the actual cost. So.
Families with no children in the district, is there $30 per unit regardless on your family?
Well, we certainly have to look at free and reduced lunch families, which we have amended for in terms of our fees, and then also multiple families. We had one family at the middle school that had, I think it was 3 children in the program at once, so it got to be a little expensive. Yeah, and insurance has been the same. But we can work out a multi-price, and again, particularly since we're self-insuring, we have that flexibility, whereas before with an outside company, that was absolutely not the case.
The interest rate for Providence, 2.5. What is the current interest rates that we're earning on our fund balance? I think you know where this question is going. Would we be better off to fund it ourselves?
The problem, yes. I mean, if we didn't have to pay the interest rate, I mean, we would be paying out more than we're earning. Let's put it that way. We're not earning enough money to cover, you know what I mean, what that cost is. Ideally, we'd like to pay for these devices, but we've gotten in the capital lease cycle, and once you're in that cycle, because those payments are so continuous, it's really hard to break and then come up with the $700,000 all at once. So, because that's the cost of the lease. Does that make sense? Not at all. Okay. I mean, our focus is to get to a point, I think Tony and I have talked, and we would like to get to a point where we're actually buying the devices, we're not on this consistent lease, and not locked into anything. And I think we can get there once we get the program up and running and we're in it a couple years and we're not buying the mass amounts that we are.
And I see your point, and I agree. It's one thing if it's a one-time purchase, it's another if we're continuing on for several years. So we don't know where that fund balance will be after them.
Correct. And at some point it'll level off too. Right now we're building it, certainly more capital up front, whereas initially it'll just be 5th and 9th grade as they come in. And then also we'd open up to bring your own device. So if families elected to choose their own device to bring to school, we can do that as well.
So we have next year.
Yes.
And then we have one more year of still building up.
So 14, 15, yep, will be our second year. 15, 16 is our third and final year of build.
And then we're just
Then we
going
level.
5th and 9th grade from there on.
Correct.
Any more questions? Okay, we can vote.
There were also, I don't know if they would speak now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. Apologize.
It's Mr. Schrader's first day on the job.
Yeah, no, he's doing good.
No, I have weight room, and heroin.
You're good? I just didn't know if you needed to talk. I apologize. Sorry, Mr. Schrader.
If you'd like to, you may. I'll just have you fill out a card afterwards. This is your shining moment. Okay. We appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Still thinking.
Not really.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, motion passes 6-0. Our next item under resolution action items is Southeast Wisconsin School Alliance Renewal Agreement.
Motion to approve agreement to participate in the Southeast Wisconsin School Alliance for the 2014-2015 school year at a cost of $3,000.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
This is an annual renewal of an association that I participate in, as well as other individuals. There are directors of business services or assistant superintendents that attend these on occasion as well. And so it's just an annual renewal of this association, similar to what the board would have for the Wisconsin Association of School Boards. There are about 30 districts in southeastern Wisconsin that participate. And actually, I have the honor in serving on their executive board as well.
Questions, discussion? Okay, we'll vote whenever we're ready. work cut out for you, Tony.
I do. An email right now.
Motion carries 6-0. Next item in resolution action items is liability, property, workers' compensation policy renewals.
Motion to approve the local government property insurance fund for the district's property insurance and automobile physical damage insurance. M3 for the district's liability lines. United Heartland through Gallagher for workers' compensation insurance. And Liberty through Gallagher for the district's equipment breakdown and crime policies.
So moved.
Thank you. Discussion?
So this item also came through business services. Included in the documents was a background information that broke down the specific insurance lines that we're renewing. In the past, if you look at the spreadsheet that was included, you'll see on the left-hand side all of the property and equipment liability lines as well as workers' comp. In the 2013-14 cost for all of our insurances is the first line. And then we actually went out to market this year. It was the first time in 6 years that the district went out to market. And so we received some competitive bids back. And what we've done is we worked with T. Brennan, who is the district's a consultant to the district, to look at the different liability property lines and determine which combination of companies would work best for the district and create the best possible pricing. So our overall cost for all of these insurances this year is $450,000, and we're actually making a recommendation through various companies that would take rates actually down to $429,000. There is a color-coded chart, I guess, on the right-hand side that shows what we're recommending. The local government property insurance fund is who we have property insurance with now. We are recommending staying with them. In my notes, I said they were the lowest. They weren't the lowest, however. WRM, who was the lowest, will not write the property line without writing the liability as well. And so because we're not choosing them for liability, we couldn't utilize their property services. So we are recommending M3 for all of our liability lines. We do have representatives from M3 here if you would like to speak with them for any reason. We are recommending staying with Gallagher for equipment breakdown and crime, and then workers' compensation. And that was a change in the business services discussion that we had. There is a difference in the anticipated dividends between the two carriers. This dividend would be less than what we would receive if we were to change workers' compensation carriers. However, we do believe that with the relationship that we've built and what they've done with us, working with the safety program, continuing that process with them will help us in the long run and probably be more beneficial on the dividend side in the future. So we would like to recommend maintaining our relationship with United Heartland for workers' compensation.
Questions? Comments?
Julie, is this fairly standard where we break things up, different lines to different companies?
It is becoming more standard, yes.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. You can do kind of the one-size-fits-all piece, which we've done in the past. And the reason, we went out to market because board policy does recommend that we do that for our insurances. But also there have been a lot of changes. We're currently with Liberty for pretty much everything, and then United Heartland for workers' comp. There's been some changes within Liberty's insurance, and so with changes as to how they're writing the insurance, it was recommended that we look at other carriers and compare and contrast, and putting together, working with the various vendors. We work with the property insurance fund now, so that's not a change for us, but splitting up the liability and the workers' comp was a change, and it did give us the best results. And we will be working with great companies on all lines, so we're very happy with what came through.
Anything else? Okay, your vote. breath. Lean back. Water.
In that room. Squeak chair. Sure. Brian. Thanks.
Yeah, please. Thank you. Actually, I did that wrong.
You didn't take a deep breath?
No, okay. I said, sure, I'll have some more. And pull it.
Motion carries 6-0.
That's how I'll do it.
Next item under resolution action items is district-wide seal coat bid.
Motion to approve suburban asphalt for district-wide seal coat services at a cost of $52,292.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Jones.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Jeremiah.
Hey, you guys.
What do you want for us today?
We'll be seal coating about 60% of the district. It's typically on an every other year schedule. We missed last year, so this would be the year for catch-up. So we bid out with 5 contractors. One did not bid, and the winning bidder was Suburban Asphalt at $52,038. So
Seal and paint.
seal coat, patch.
It says 52,292 in the board memo, and I think that's what Brett read. But
That's where I got the number.
but it does say the number you said, Jeremiah.
There was
on
a
the
cost.
screen here.
There was an option there that I reduced a little bit more after the bid. So
So that number is what?
52,038.
38. Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Seal coating. It's thrilling stuff, isn't it?
It is. It is.
There's quite a bit of difference between the highest bid and the lowest bid.
Sure. Merit Asphalt, they actually did not follow the bidding instructions that I had given them, so I had contacted them afterwards and said if you guys would like to section it off as I requested. They didn't reply to my response, so I had to list it as they listed it to me.
Okay.
I asked for it in sections throughout the whole district so I can figure out priorities, and they just gave me a lump sum. So.
Will there be, I know it's broken up here for us, but is any one building completely, parking lot completely inaccessible for any one time, or?
We're going to work the first week of August, and I asked administrators and custodians when the best block was, so we're going to try to do the 3-day work week. 4-day work week, we're going to hit it on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then next Friday, Saturday, Sunday again. So
okay.
We're hoping to do it during off hours.
All right, anything else? All right, let's vote.
Now you get the sweater out.
Now for the next one.
I think you should another one.
I think I'm for a 3.
Okay, motion passes 6-0. Resolution action item K, structural repair of west football bleacher structure.
We're skipping J.
Oh, J. Jeremiah Johnson.
Now the kids are like, wait a minute.
Think you all stayed at 10:30? Weight room in school tomorrow. Weight room relocation option.
Motion to approve the relocation of the Mosquito High School weight room as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Well, we can start off, and I'm going to get some cards for some of our community members interested in speaking on this topic. Jeremiah, if you can just give an update of where we're at as far as our discussions related to the newest idea for the weight room.
Sure. So after numerous options that we provided to the board, the final best decision we could come to was to put the weight room in our lower facilities, which is our Project Lead the Way and art rooms, and relocate those two programs into new facilities. So with that, we had Hunzinger prepare a bid for us. They had won all of the bids in our previous repair options. So currently sits at $204,000 to relocate and retrofit the programs that are all affected by the moving. So I guess I can answer more detail.
There isn't any change to the location and relocation or anything since 2 weeks ago?
We were initially going to put the Project Lead the Way program in the old weight room. We decided to put it in room 271, which was an old study hall. And then in the old weight room 255, we're going to keep that a Pilates/storage area, which actually helps because there's a minimal amount of retrofitting there. We're just going to put the old mats back in, and it'll be a really low impact activity to be held in there. And it keeps it an athletic area consolidated. Project Lead the Way, it kind of made sense to put them in 271 because there's two adjacent classrooms that are Project Lead the Way, so they're almost clustered together. And the art class, we're going to consolidate into an existing art room. So that's the extent.
So are you still doing, per the drawing that was handed out, 141 and 142, that's the new weight room? Correct. And then 145 is that the change? Or is that or that's the expansion? Here, you can look on this view. Like that. I'm just, because to what Dean said, I mean, is that the same then?
145 will replace 141 will go into 145.
Okay, right. And then that's the current art room.
Correct.
And that's the one with the mechanicals, natural, okay.
Yes.
And then the only other change you said was that Project Lead the Way, which is going to the second floor.
Correct. 271.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Kelly, can you explain our staffing changes in our art program for the high school?
So, with enrollment, there are times where different elective classes will have more of an enrollment, and you need to look at staffing. At this point in time, we have 2 and a partial art teacher for Muskego High School. Next year, per enrollment, it'll be 2. So the person who is traveling essentially between the high school and Lake Dune will be at the high school full-time, and the room, in her current room, which is 147, 149 downstairs, right next to 145, which is Scott Clear's current art room. He's retiring, and so the teacher who is in 141 will be moving into that art classroom. So 2 full-time, there is a bit of a reduction in art as far as enrollment, and so we're able to do that in 2 classrooms. And they're both current art rooms. And they will be completely, the ADA pieces that the American Disabilities Act, the types of construction will occur in Scott Clear's room and in the other art classroom, so that they're up to the same par as 141.
So does that mean there's 3 current FTEs now and 1 due to retirement and transferring a floater between LD, between Lake Dune and the high school? We net with 2 full-time art teachers at the high school.
Right.
Okay, got it. And that's due to declining enrollment from the art elective.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Clayton, come on up. You can come up by the microphone and give us your name and address. The floor is yours.
That's what I heard. So by address, you mean like
Your name and your full address and Mnsd Board.
Okay, I'm Clayton Kavanaugh. My address is West 162 South 7774 Seafarer Pass. I, as all of the students here today, oppose this not just because it's the demolishing of an art room, which of course we like, but I mean, it has so much history into it and so much work into it from the students that have been there, not even just now, but in the past. There are other options, I believe, and this kind of feel, this kind of history, this kind of real emotion put into art can't be recreated in another room by these same people. This is the history of the art classes of the past. And the murals that are in this room are either going to be demolished or painted over, and I think that's a tragedy in itself, because this is an expressment of the students that have been here in the past and the people that are here now. Just at the end of school, we were talking about the murals that we just finished putting on the walls, and how, what's really the point if no one will be able to see these later and talk about what it means and how it feels to be a student that did these. I think that the decline in the enrollment in art, I don't know what it is, obviously, but I think that that could easily be fixed simply by putting more into the program. I think that, I mean, every day in art, I and the students around me have been wishing that there were more materials, really. We run low quite often, and a lot of it has to come from, as I hear people complaining about, that it has to come, like the extra supplies have to come from the teachers themselves. And I think that that's not only the issue, but the fact that the whole art program is being shrunk. I think that this is the wrong step, because the students need this kind of expressing of their ideas and of their own personal flair to the school. And knowing that you left a footprint in the sand at the high school you left means a lot to so many people. And destroying that opportunity for the people that have been there is a tragedy. And as I see here, the other options were to add support to the weight room that there was before, perhaps, and that the reason that we didn't go through with this, and I don't know what's changed since then. This was from June 4th. But what I understand is that the reason that we don't go through with this to just re-support the other weight room is that it would be easier to supervise one than having two locations, or whatever that other option was. I don't really, honestly, I don't understand it. I just started reading it now. But I think that that simply making it easier to supervise is not worth destroying the walls and the murals and the artwork that we have created over the years. I think it's just not the right move to erase history in order to make way for a simplified supervision for teachers. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clayton. Paul?
Hello, I'm Paul Salceder at South 78 West 15870 Kayla Lane, and I very much agree with Clayton. I think it's very, very important for students to have artistic expression and the ability to leave a footprint behind in school as they go on, to know that they left something behind, and to know that their educational experience and their artistic expression was meaningful. In addition, I've heard some varying things about different plans, and I was concerned about the futures of actually both of these programs. Is it going to be affordable and cost-effective to move both of these programs? Would it be more efficient to just repair the current weight room, or would it be more expensive to demolish the current wall, make the renovations in that room, wire up room 271, I believe, was the suggested room for the Project Lead the Way room, to wire that one up to have the electrical components and the hardware capacities to support an engineering room with all of the computer lab and equipment and materials that they're going to need, as well as to facilitate Mrs. Rush's room and to allow further rooms to be developed for the use by the art and engineering departments in the future. Is it going to be cost efficient? I don't know if that was in consideration, Mr. Jeremiah. All right, that's most of what I had to present. I think Clayton did a good job of covering most of the other aspects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Kyle?
Hello, I'm Kyle Thoreau at West 157 South 7820 Quietwood Drive, and really what we're here for is we want a minimal impact on the art and engineering programs as much as possible. I understand there's definitely a need to fix the weight room. I know it's been a big toll on the athletes this year with the different weight room settings, but I really want the board to think about minimalizing that impact on the art and engineering. That's just what we're really here for. We don't want to see a big change. I know Ms. Roosh right now is teaching out of basically a teacher's lounge, and it's easy to move this weight room and stuff, and with art it's kind of different, and art a lot of the time gets moved away for sports and things. So we really want that to be looked into and how the art and engineering programs will be impacted by this. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Okay, Jeremiah.
Jeremiah, would you speak to the different options that we did have in play?
Sure.
And about repairing the hole in the floor and
Sure.
and what we all discussed?
Sure. First, I want to thank the students for thoughtfully crafting your discussion here. You guys have put a lot of thought and time into it, and I really do appreciate it. Initially we had talked about even possibly building out a new weight room. The pricing came back at about $1.2 million, and that just wasn't feasible at the time. We did bid out repairing the weight room floor. The weight room is actually above grade, which is very non-traditional. It was never meant to be a weight room. It was actually initially classrooms. So to repair the weight room floor was close to $300,000, and it was really a temporary solution because of the safety of the space. Currently, the ceiling heights are about 9 feet in there, which any of you guys could stick your hands through a ceiling with weights. And as we look towards growth of all programs, it really wouldn't provide us any room for growth. We're kind of maxed out in there, and we just don't want anybody to get hurt, really. So this came as more of a final option, is to find a place on grade which isn't going to collapse on us, and try to be equitable with each of the programs that we need to look out for every program. So this just seemed to be the most cost-effective. It seemed to make the most sense. And as I've spoke with our art teachers and Linda as well, I just want to make sure that we give you guys the same programs in the spaces which we're going to put them, as far as ADA accessibility, fume hoods, extra sinks, extra electrical. So I've really taken all of those staff members' feedback and built it into this plan to try to come around spaces that we can utilize as a district to benefit the kids, really. So.
Eric,
Yes.
Did you ask again if anybody wanted to speak?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I thought I saw some hesitation and some. We have another hand.
Okay.
Clayton's hand.
Sure. Can you step up to them?
Oh yeah. You just have to step up to the mic though. Okay. That's fine. You just have to step up to the mic though.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Come on. Name and address, and then ask away.
I'm Carly Fitzgerald. I'm from 25011 Breezy Point Road in Wind Lake. I just had a question for you. In regards to Miss Rush's current room, which is a teacher's lounge and it's not actually set up to be an art room, is there anything we could do in the future to better set it up to be an art room? Like, because I know she's going to be teaching, was it classes that next week?
Sing
Singing lesson initially, which requires a lot of electricals. I know she currently doesn't have enough electricals in there to be teaching that class next year. And I was wondering if there's anything you'd be doing to make that a better environment for that.
Yeah, actually, last Friday morning we met with Ms. Roosh and really went through the whole room and talked about what her needs were. And so we're talking multi-electrical outlets on each wall, both east and west, and then adding an additional sink, and then also exploring the fume hood, so that we have that option there too. So.
That's what I was.
Harley, could you fill out one of these cards in the back and just hand it to Dar then? Thank you.
Clayton had his hand up too.
Step back up, Clayton. You may.
So about the things that have been talked about with like fixing the Ms. Roosh's art room, I definitely approve of those. I think that as last year I was in that art room and I was doing projects in there, and I can speak from experience in saying we definitely don't have enough in that room. And I approve of all the things that you're talking about with that. But I think that the placement of the art room, like I said, in these, or the placement of the new weight room in the art room and the engineering room, I think that that's not the best, most minimal impact way of doing this, because, I mean, I don't know if this is a possibility, but I see in the sports program, as I've been in that as well, that many of the locker rooms that we have are unused half the season, and we could simply move that program into another space. And I know that a lot of other rooms could be moved into, as I don't see them being used often either. I'm not saying that I know about the engineering and the construction aspects and the real support aspects and things like that, but I think that there is definitely a better possibility and a lower impact place to put these things than in an art room full of memories and an engineering room that would need to be heavily moved into another space.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a question. I'm about 95% on board with this project, with the exception of the artwork that's currently on the walls. And I understand that one wall will be coming down, so some of the artwork's going to be destroyed. Hopefully we can, at least if we go forward with this, we can photograph and somehow have that represented throughout the school, not in the same way with the same feeling, but as close as we can. My question is, the walls that are undisturbed, do we have to paint them? Can we leave the artwork that is there, not only for some of the art students that use the weight room will see it, but we're going to expose a lot of other kids that would never have walked into those art rooms to art, which may even produce some thoughts in their heads as to, hey, maybe art is something I want to be interested in or learn about.
And not only art, but art that was done by their peers.
Right. And I know there was talk about painting the walls, but you know what? I don't think it's necessary, to be honest with you.
I would support the board if that's the decision. I think it'd be merely a cosmetic thing that the weight folks would probably benefit from, seeing the artwork. I think talking to the coach, he just wants all white, so I mean we could just go around areas. We are going to have to paint because we're tearing out a lot of casework, so God only knows what's behind there. But we could go around artwork that's existing if that's the board's decision. Certainly.
I mean, I understand it may put a little more time and effort into the project, but I think it's worth saving as much as we can.
Sure.
One question I do have, and Clayton could probably answer this, is because I'm not really familiar with those art rooms, but have we run out of wall space for art room for art to be put on the walls? And if we have, how do they decide where the next art project is placed on a wall? Does it cover something that's been there for a number of years, or have we not run out of space yet? Step up, please.
Sorry.
Well, how we decide on that is, like, we did pillars in there, which I don't know about those. And we really just take any empty space we can find. We haven't yet filled it up, and actually a lot of it is on the wall, unfortunately, that it's going to be torn down. Obviously, I don't condone, but whatever needs to be done, I suppose. But yeah, how we decide on what gets painted is really on that project. It's one project out of the year, or it could be others, depending upon if you ask the art teacher and they say yes. But yeah, we just decide on how big it is, depending upon the project that we're talking about, and really, if it has to go into another project because of if it just happens to on accident, then I guess that happens occasionally. But usually, we try to make up as much space as we can. And that project has a lot of that bend with, does it have to be on a wall? No, but a lot of people like to put it on a wall.
Sure, come on.
I know I just finished a painting that was on the wall that's being torn down. And at the time that was just blank space, so I asked her where would be an appropriate spot, and there was that spot or a spot in the corner that's also just been finished. There was one on a cabinet that has been there for, I don't know, it's since the room was first probably turned into an art room. It's a really old painting. So someone has painted over that, but it's been years and years and years. There are some in the basement outside of the art room. It's a group project. I chose to do it solo, but some kids do it, like 4 or 5 kids to a group. And so there are like gigantic paintings covering a giant wall. There's one leading to the cafeteria that's like a cityscape painting. And so it's affecting outside of the room too, but a lot of the wall has been filled, but there's a lot of space, and it's just more of a, can I use this space? Is it okay for me to cover this if you wanted to use that, or is it like is there any free space, is what I asked Ms. McCarthy at the time.
Great. Thank you.
So in 2004, this happened, a similar situation happened when we went through remodeling at the high school, and Mr. Clear had some murals on his wall, and those were painted over, and it was, they captured those and then repainted those on the wall. He actually started using the tiles, just like these tiles, and students are now painting on the tiles rather than on walls. So that's an example of another teacher's approach.
So the space that our students have to paint, is it limited to the art room, or have they ever ventured outside the art room?
And that's what she was talking about. There are, in some of the hallways, there are some large murals that students have. Primarily right around there. Right around the art rooms.
In the 90s, Bay Lane was also a home of a myriad of murals that were all painted over too, and I think moving forward we all need to be more thoughtful about probably putting paintings on plywood, and that they can come off the wall, so that way this one doesn't happen again. So.
Well, I think your point is well taken, Jeremiah, is that, the idea, and I can understand the medium, right? You maybe, like you said, it's easier to work on walls, but you run a risk. And the risk is that as permanent as you think a building may be, it's not in a district that changes. And the best example that comes to mind, and you guys are kind of young for this, I don't know if you remember, but the Milwaukee County Courthouse, before the renovation of the freeway, had a wide, expansive overhang over the freeway with a beautiful mural of whales. And it was very identifiable. People loved it, and it all came down. And you could not maintain it. And when they planned the new freeways, that all just went. And I'm sure the artist was very disappointed to see it go, to say the least, as were many community members. But that was, I guess, the risk that the county had taken and that artist, knowing that, other than maybe on canvas, right, the permanency is difficult to ensure. But I appreciate Mr. Schrader's comments of, to the extent that we can save things at this
room undergoes a transformation, we try.
Eric, there's some good.
You have some more.
Step on up. Name and address, and then when you're done, if you could fill out a card, please.
My name is Jacob Green. My address is South 68, West 19850, Black Walnut Court. I hadn't known about this issue until about recently, a couple days ago, but I just had a preposition. It seems that they seem very concerned with the murals that would be destroyed if we were going to relocate the weight room or whatever it is. I propose that what if the art students were to paint instead where the weight room would be the walls in the weight room, so that maybe like the students that are using like the weight room could see, what the art students are doing with the room that they're like taken up. So instead of them, the billers or whatever, painting the actual weight room, is that it would be the art students that would be painting a mural there instead. I don't know if equipment would get in the way, if it would be put in beforehand, or I just think that maybe that would, satisfy the students. I think that I don't know anything about cost effectiveness, but maybe that would reduce some of the costs that the district would have to pay for people to paint the room a bit. So it just seems to me like that may be a good option.
All right, Jacob. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clayton? Yes, sorry. Third strike, so you're done after this. Come on up.
Still learning all the rules.
You're doing a great job.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. So I really like that idea. That's not what I was going to come up about, but I really like that idea. I like that. And I was just kind of retaining the rights maybe to painting over that during the year, perhaps. I know there's equipment in there that we can't get paint on, but could be very careful about it. Anyway, what I was going to talk about, from what you said about the mural being painted over and how that's kind of a risk we have to take. First, we have plywood murals stacked up against the wall on like one whole wall is basically just stacks of plywood murals that we have no place to put because we simply either don't have space for it, or that the school board, or not school board, but the school itself doesn't want us to kind of put it just kind of all over the walls, which understandable. You don't want us to just kind of ragtag it all together on the walls. It makes sense. But we just have piles and piles of plywood on there that no one's going to see. And I think students walking in and seeing that, and then seeing the ones on the walls that everyone has to see, is kind of disheartening. We don't like seeing that art kind of just wasted on empty space that no one's going to see. And I think that one case that you were talking about with the whale mural, I think that that's a tragedy that got taken down. And I don't think that progress, for the sake of progress, should be a reason to tear down the expression of others. I think that that's a terrible thing in itself, and it shouldn't happen because it's really someone's soul that they poured out into an image, and then you're tearing it down because you want something else to happen. I think that making room in one program, making room for a program with the art program is kind of just, it doesn't make sense to me that you're taking a chunk out of one to do another. I know this, and like I said, I know there has to be a place for it and things like that, and I addressed that before. But I mean, just to restate my initial thing, is that we have stacks of murals that are temporary and that we see every day and we are crushed by because those people will never have their art seen by others.
Okay, thanks, Clayton. Anything from the board?
Eric, I like your thought. I had a very similar thought of trying to preserve as much of the art that's on the walls as we can. And I realize, Jeremiah, that might make your job a little bit more difficult, but I hope you can appreciate what they're saying.
Absolutely.
That we owe it to them to preserve as much of that art as we can.
Sure.
Not only for them, but for future students. So Eric, I appreciate that thought. I appreciate all of you who came out to speak tonight. You have done an amazing job. not only at the school in the art classes, but here. To be a high school student and to come up and speak in front of a board can be a little intimidating, and you have expressed yourself fantastic. So thank you for that.
To build a little bit off of one of the proposals that came through, I know that Coach Nitka had asked us to consider doing a mural on the back wall, probably Warriors or something like that, but it'd be really cool to be collaborative and work with you guys to maybe come together with an idea with the coach and get something up there. It'd be really cool.
So what I think I'm hearing from the board, and we'll find out in a minute when we vote on this, is if it does get approved, we do move forward because this really is financially for the board, it is the best option that we see right now. And one of our responsibilities is to be fiscally responsible to the community, to your parents that are paying taxes, maybe even yourselves if you're a homeowner or renter at this point. But I think what we're hearing is that we want to save as many murals as we can. That the ones that are on the wall that come down at least are photographed and given to the art department to do what they can with them. And also with Mr. Ortel and Mr. Nitka and yourself, you work with the art department to maybe have an option in the future to do murals in that room. I don't know how feasible that will be, but because I don't know how much space you need to do something like that, but maybe it's still possible to do that. And you guys work together, and I'm sure Mr. Ortel will be more than happy to help as much as he can. And I say that because you're here to make it all work. And it's unfortunate. I feel bad that wall will come down. But maybe we even need to talk about the future. How we make sure that if we're using walls, we understand at the time, and I'm sure most of the people that put those murals up there never thought they would ever come down, but they need to understand that it could be temporary. At least up front you know that, and it's a little bit easier to understand when the day comes that you come back to visit the school and it's gone. Anything else before we vote?
The only other comment I had was they brought up those plywood. They were on stacks. We could include that. And I guess the collaborative effect. I don't know what size these are or how big they are, but it's their high school. And generally speaking, you know, we look around here and we see the artwork on the wall. And I can't say it would be there permanently, but it could be rotated throughout the years or the classes that go through there at least. It wouldn't be destroyed, but they would be visible throughout our schools. That was the only other comment I heard that I'm not sure what those stacks look like, but I would hate to think that there are dozens of paintings just there with no recognition, I mean, part of art is the legacy built upon each year. So if you could just address that as well.
And I think we could leave that up to the high school principal. It's his building. The thing you have to be careful about, and I'm sure Mr. Ortel would say this if he was at the microphone, is we have a lot of different classes that build or make different things that would all like to have their projects visited by everybody in the school, and it's just not possible to do that. So we'll leave that up to them as to what can work and what won't work. Okay, let's vote. Or can we vote, or you want me to do a voice vote?
We can vote.
Okay. I didn't know if you were back up yet. Thank you all, and if you did fill out a card, if you did speak, if you could fill out a card and just drop it next to the dollar here, we appreciate it. Passes 6-0. Thank you all. We'll move on to the next item, which apparently I was interested in. Structural repair of the West football bleacher structure.
Motion to approve Hunzinger as contractor for structural repair of the Muskego High School football bleachers in an amount not to exceed $12,728.
So moved.
Second? Anyone?
Oh, I thought you just said second.
Brett
He's
seconded.
asking. Oh, he's asking.
Discussion?
During the spring, just during a grounds review, we had noticed that the typically really harsh winter took its toll on the footings of the west bleachers. These footings are 30 years old, so really in due time it has crumbled, mostly through just frost and heaving. The exterior of these columns is a steel wrap, which is really just cosmetic and actually just posing like a danger for someone to walk by and slice their leg on. So I brought together a few contractors rather quickly, talking about solutions. Hunzinger came in as the lowest bidder for the project, and because it is a life safety issue, I did proceed with them, just knowing that we're coming up on sports season rather quickly. So happy to entertain any questions from the group.
There again, Jeremiah, look at the big spread between the winning bid and the highest bid.
Yeah.
Any idea why? I mean, the other one you explained very well. This.
Yeah. Well,
I'm used to seeing bids,
sure.
10% range one way or the other. This is double.
I've asked Hunzinger several times. I think I've probably bid out 10 to 12 things over the past year, and they win every single one consecutively. They've never serviced us poorly. And in talking with, I deal strictly with the vice president. He comes through, we walk, we talk. And I've asked him, how come you guys are so low all the time? And he said, we know your guys' facilities too well. They built the high school, they built Lake Danoon, and up until I began this position, they pretty much exclusively serviced us with their services. So we have great relationships with their servicemen. The guy that's working out here, his name's Todd. He lives right around the corner. I meet with him daily. Really, I think it's a hands-off opportunity for Hunzinger just to let their guys go. They trust the district, we trust them, and I guess I'm always pleasantly happy that they come in lower because budgets aren't growing. So don't know if that's much of an answer, but.
Anything else? All right, we can vote. Motion passes 6-0.
Jeremiah, can you hang on 1 second for this next item? I have a question about one of the donations. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Resolution action item L, donations, Mosquito Elementary, Lake Danoon, and District. Mr. Clerk.
Motion to accept with thanks the following donations. From Mosquito Elementary, from the PTO, $1,192.09 for the purchase of a new phone. Also from the PTO, $318.36 for the purchase of bus transportation for grades 3 and 4 to Discovery World. And also from the PTO, $144.22 for bus transportation to Mosquito High School Performing Arts Center for the winter sing practice. For the district, from Google, $1,236.50 for breakfast and lunch for the Google Symposium participants.
Did you get the Lake Danoon one?
Oh, you didn't.
Yeah. We didn't finish reading the motion yet.
Get to know them. And for Lake Danoon Middle School, from Coles Cares, $1,000 for Earl students to attend a junior achievement event.
So moved. Jeremiah, do we have a kiln right now at Muskego?
We do.
Okay, so this is just to replace it?
Correct.
All right, thank you. I thought we were going to put one there, and I was wondering where.
Anything else? All right, we can vote.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wow, let's get really fast. Motion's approved 6-0. Next three items are discussion items we do not vote on. First one will be random drug testing for high school participants in athletics and co-curricular activities, policy and administrative guidelines 5530.01, second reading.
So the board did view this policy and the administrative guidelines last time. One thing that is not highlighted on here that was a change was the identification of our testing coordinator is going to be an assistant principal. That's what the high school is recommending at this point. So that where you would see a testing coordinator term, that's an associate principal. So just to make note of that. The underlined text in the guidelines are all of the input that our attorney has for us. And there's just some specification about where the Muskego High School District Random Drug Testing Program consent form would be held, making sure that there's clarity about in order for somebody to begin an activity or a sport, that that form would need to be completed. Another component that the board had requested was some language related to if a parent wanted to revoke or if a student wanted to revoke, essentially opt out. And so there's language in there that would allow, of course, anybody who gives consent can revoke that consent. It just is clear about if there is revocation of that consent, how the district would handle that, how the testing coordinator would handle that, and that in order for them to begin, if they did choose to come back and have an activity, participate in an activity or a sport, that they would need to give consent in the future and be tested at the very next random drug testing. Another component that, I'll just keep with the underlined items on the third page of the guidelines, the administering the tests. Again, there's just more specification about the labeling and the possibility of retesting and all of those types of things. It's just some specificity there. And on the fourth page, where it's the review and the appeal procedures, there's some specific language for the medical review officer. And in this case, it would possibly be like the ProHealth, and what they would do in an appeal process. So if there's a positive result, what would the process be, and very specifically, how would they look at if something's been prescribed? And then finally, on the last page is the consequences. Something you'll see for the third reading, and maybe other things if the board is interested, is the third bullet where it says an activity athletic code violation results from the following. We would have to consider if revocation should be part of that, because when they come back, there would be, if they would come back and decide that they would participate in any athletic or activity, that there would be a consequence that would be in line with that. The highlighted yellow piece on the second page, what is tested, the board had some conversation about performance enhancers. Also, that was something that the parent survey in the open-ended there were some indications and questions about whether or not the board or the district would end up testing for that at some point in time. And certainly that could happen. ProHealth reported a cost of about $280 for that type of testing. So it's in there, and if at some point in time the board would want, or the district would want to do that, we could certainly maybe even do it once a year or whatever, if that would be of interest to the board. If that was of interest to keep that in, the performance enhancers under what is tested. We would then add that to the actual policy, which there is no change at this point for the actual policy itself, but we could include performance enhancers just to, keep it up there and open it up front in case if the district or the board would want to do that in the future. So the last item that I had a discussion with the squirrels was the 25% eligible, for the sampling, and the recommendation was that we do keep that 25%, and the reasoning was that it's a reasonable sample. So from the standpoint of sampling enough that you feel that you're going to, if there is an issue out there, that we would have the potential of tracking that, and small enough to avoid any kind of administrative errors or confidentiality, particularly as we begin a program like this, if in fact the board approves it. And lastly, just one separate thing, we had talked about whether or not the separate file was the medical file, and no, it would be a separate file even from the student medical file.
So Dr. Thompson, of the student population, the total student population in the high school, what's our percentage roughly that participate in a co-curricular that would be covered by the policy?
So we have about 725, is that accurate? Co-curricular participants at this point that are non-duplicated. So more than that is duplicated.
So about 725 students.
Students, yes.
And if we had it so it'd be 25% of that population.
And I don't know if it's 1,000 with the duplicated, because I think we were kind of throwing out the 1,000, I believe that's a duplicated. Okay.
So it's probably about 40% of our high school population, 25% of that 40%.
Do you have cards?
Go ahead.
Do you have somebody that wants to speak?
I do. I just wanted to get into the discussion we have first.
Okay. I didn't. You get that 25%?
They said 725 unduplicated co-curricular participants, which would put us at about 40% of our high school population. And so about 25% of that 40%.
Okay, got it.
Eligible. Although you could get tested more than once.
Right.
If you want to, so the unduplicated would be someone who's in one co-curricular throughout the school year, and the duplicate would be multiple co-curriculars throughout the school year. Okay, got it.
Kelly, did Quarles review the policy as well as the guidelines, or just the guidelines?
Both.
I respect their opinions. I just don't understand how logically you can keep a student eligible to be tested even though they're not participating in co-curriculars. The way the guidelines are written now is once that student signs up for a co-curricular, he or she is eligible to be tested for the rest of their high school life. If they're not participating in co-curriculars, if they just do one co-curricular earlier in their career, I don't understand how logically we can give ourselves the right to test them years after they've participated in a co-curricular.
Well, and that's where the revocation comes in. So it is understood that they will likely participate in that co-curricular or another co-curricular once they've enrolled, once they've participated in one. They have the right to revoke that consent. If after football, their freshman year, they decide, I'm not going out for football again, I'm revoking my consent, that's fine. Nothing happens, except if they try to come back, because that's the loophole that we do not want to create, where they're opting out and then coming back for football in the fall. And they then do not have the opportunity to be randomly selected for the remainder of that year. There's a likelihood of there probably be one random test during a sport or two at the time.
But if they opt out, then they're not eligible to go back into a co-curricular.
They are eligible, they can, but then they will have, it will be treated as if they refused to be tested.
So they have to sit out.
They have to, they would have the consequence, and they would have to be tested the very next time.
I think what they're trying to get away from is you go out for freshman football. At the end of football, you opt out. I'm not going to do any more co-curriculars. Sophomore football comes up, you decide I'm going to join sophomore football. At the end of sophomore football, you opt out.
Right.
So what's occurring during that 9-month period? Hopefully not drug use,
Right.
but many people could surmise that could be happening because you continually opt out after your season's over.
Is there a formal process for opting out, or is it just simply, my name comes up? Pardon me?
Yes, it would just be a written statement that I'm revoking my consent.
Otherwise, if you don't revoke it, you're not in a sport, your name comes up, you can still refuse to take it, it's just treated as a violation. There's really not a difference whether they declare it before or during the testing.
And really, it's a violation with no consequences unless you decide to come back to a co-curricular.
Because you are seen as you are a participant in co-curriculars in athletics. That's once you sign up for the first time, you have now become that person. And it's expected that you would likely continue to be a participant. If you're not and you want to revoke your consent, you can certainly do that. And never participate again.
I think the other important thing to note here is that we're modeling this idea after Heartland Arrowhead and Pewaukee, who have already been successfully administering this program for several years, to the point where if it has been challenged, which I'm not sure, it hasn't been successfully challenged. So it's at this point, I would say it's a legitimate good program or policy or procedure, up to date. Does Corals and Brady work with those two districts also?
I don't know.
Anything else from the board at this time? Okay. I have one comment card. Topic to be addressed is a little bit off of random drug testing, but does talk about heroin use. So you can come up, Jacob, and name and address, and you could talk. We're trying to stay on the topic of random drug testing, if at all possible. Go ahead.
My name is Jacob Green. My address is South 68 West 19850 Black Walnut Court. I wasn't sure if this would, I'm new to these meetings. This is my first one. I wasn't sure if this was supposed to be the topic to discuss it with. But, you know, in light of recent events of even a student passing away over narcotic use, I think that it should definitely be pushed more for drug testing, just because it seems that, you know, this district in general has, it supposedly has a very big heroin issue, and I've noticed that in the health class. I took one this year, and it seems that they push a lot of different, you know, like teenage pregnancy and drug use and abstinence and all that stuff. It seems that like what they would do is that they show like a video of a pregnancy for a teenager, and the kids would not like want to do that. They'd show like a person who used methamphetamines, and they'd say, I don't want to do that. I think that, if we show what certain substances like steroids or, certain, hormones or can do to athletes, the effects on that, rather than what, what it does up front, the long-term effects, I think that they would really kind of think differently about using these substances, because it seems to me that I don't participate in sports, but, it does kind of seem like if you do have kind of a desire to use something that would enhance your performance, maybe you're not feeling that confident in your ability to perform in general. So I think that, you know, inside of that, what we might want to do is that try to enforce their maybe self-confidence, maybe possibly. It's kind of a stretch, I know, but you know, it just kind of seems like it maybe coincides. I guess what my point is that if we kind of push more in showing what these substances can do, I don't think that maybe there would be as much use of them. It's you know, it's very hard to keep anything like that to a minimum, but you know, I think that it could really have a positive effect as far as the effect it does.
Thank you, Jacob. So just to summarize, I think Jacob's in favor of drug testing, but also even more in favor of furthering the education to our students about drug use and its effects. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
And those are things, I think, right, that we were presented by Mr. Gennerman with what's currently in our district and what we're, you know, looking to enhance, you know, other programs that we currently have and maybe we need to look toward.
We did meet last week to discuss the where we're at for next steps related to all the things that we talked about at our last meeting, canine searches, further presentations, you know, the partnership with New Berlin, also looking at other types of research-based programs that could occur at the middle school level. Mr. LaFleur is working with the health classes to adjust their curriculum. So all of those types of things are being part of it.
Do we have anywhere in the guidelines or the policy here of what constitutes a extracurricular or a co-curricular? For example, is Project Lead the Way?
Right. I was just going to ask Dr. Thompson if she could give us some examples because he talked about strictly athletics. Well, it's not strictly athletics.
Right.
Can we just have some other examples of our co-curriculars that would be affected by this policy?
Sure. So student council. So it's anything that happens outside of school, National Honor Society, DECA, those types of things, FBLA.
Is there a need to put that in?
Well, we
policy?
could have some adjustments in what those programs are. It's just whatever is sponsored by our athletics and our activities department. Those are the activities that would fall under this policy.
Okay.
Okay.
Every student who's in those clubs has to sign that co-curricular card. So I thought the discussion had been when you're signing your co-curricular card, you have to make a decision.
So just for clarity, field trips, band trip, a play trip outside of state on a bus for a week, that would not fall into a co-curricular, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Unless it's the Spanish National Honor Society, then it would.
Okay.
If it's sponsored by, if it's a field trip that is aligned with a class, then no. If it's aligned with a co-curricular, like a Spanish National Honor Society, then it could.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes. So this.
I do have another comment out there, but go ahead.
I was just going to say that this will be coming back to the board again. I don't know if you want to join.
Clayton, new subject, same Clayton.
New subject, same Clayton. I'm here to stay.
Okay, Clayton, once you do talk, can you fill out a card for this subject matter too?
Okay.
Thank you.
So is that coming up to play again?
Yeah, it's just a whole new subject, whole new at bat. Do I need to restate all the? Okay, Clayton Kavanaugh, West 162 South 7774 Seafair Pass. So I've been hearing from my friends here that there's one thing that is an issue that we've been thinking of, that marching band. I don't think it's technically a co-curricular, but it kind of is a co-curricular though, and it's a requirement for a class as well. And that's just kind of something we were thinking of because, we thought it's kind of like a co-curricular, but it's also a requirement for class. I don't know about.
There's no considered a class now. It's a class.
Is it?
So it would be a class.
Okay. And then what I was thinking of was that I just want to say I support this in every way. I was wondering what the actual like formal reason is for testing. Is it to prevent like sports from being tampered with like, I don't know, or
we have
is
a
it?
list of things, Clayton.
Oh, good.
It's to foster a safer learning environment within our schools, to establish a stronger culture of drug disapproval within our school community, employ a more reliable means to detect student drug use as a means to deter its use among students, help direct students away from drug and alcohol use toward a healthy and drug-free lifestyle, assist students in maximizing their performance by remaining drug-free, assist parents and guardians with helping their children resist pressures to use alcohol, tobacco, and illegal drugs, and identify users of drugs or alcohol so that appropriate interventions may occur.
Okay, I really like that. You were prepared.
Can you read it back now?
I don't do that well with that.
There's a lot of good reasons here.
Oh, definitely. And that's actually what I was thinking of, about what the reason was. I think that, yeah, that's definitely a good program to go into. And I think that, I know I was here last time and we talked about, at some point, I'm kind of shaky on the details about why we couldn't test the entire student body. It was just kind of not, we just couldn't for legal reasons. Right. Okay, that's just what I wanted to kind of touch back on. It's because it's a privilege for the co-curriculars, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. To Jacob's point earlier, I think it's important that you heard what Dr. Thompson had to say just about that this is part of a program. This is one aspect of it. Dr. Thompson talks about the different things that student services will be doing in the middle schools for education and things like that. So just know that it is a part of it. We've talked at this board about creating a culture here of that drug use is not tolerated, and that has many different facets. So your questions were right on, and I think Dr. Thompson addressed those earlier, so hopefully that gives you some peace of mind that other things are being done as well.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may as well. As long as you fill out the card for me.
All right, I think the point.
What's your name and address?
Oh yes, of course, right. Paul Salceder, South 78 West 17580 at Kayla Lane, Muskego, Wisconsin. All right, I think the points that have been made have been really excellent. And Mrs. Thompson, or Dr. Thompson if you'd rather, sorry. Presenting it to the students in that way is really going to help, I think. Like, just presenting over an intercom is very, very impersonal, and that causes the students to really scoff and say, oh, they're trying to slam another policy on us. We've got to do something about that. We've got to rebel and not do that. So I think, but really, really having that idea and that objective in mind and going up and being very personal with the students about why this is a good idea, why you want to implement it, I think that's going to be very, very effective if it's presented more in that deep, personal way where the students feel like they're being cared about and they're not just being spoken at.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much.
I think that point's well taken, Paul. I think that especially the first year, if this does get implemented, we really have to take extra time and effort to make sure it's understood. And I think as the years go on, it will become more of a common practice and an understanding between the students and the school district and the administration. But definitely that first year, it really needs the extra attention that we're going to give it. Thank you. Anyone else? One more.
Yeah.
Sure, you have a card for me?
He's got a card.
I'll take your card, and just so I know who you are, feel free to step up.
My name is Jared, South 76, West 19821, Prospect Drive. Jacob's point, education. So I'm good with the drug testing. I think we should drug test the kids, but I'm not sure how we can do it when we're not educating them enough. I have a son in 5th grade, DARE class, took the DARE class. His big moral when he came home was drugs are bad. that's great. Drugs are bad, bullying's bad, but he didn't learn anything other than that. I have a son in high school. He's a junior. Drives my car on my insurance. I drug test him. That's a privilege, you know, so we're going with this privilege thing. But then it's my job to educate him on what's right and what's wrong, and I think that's what the school needs to do, is implement more programs for education on the drug use here.
Thank you. Well, we're hearing kind of a common theme, and we are addressing educational portions of drug awareness. But it sounds like even from a student's perspective and a parent's perspective, there's more to do. Anyone else?
I have one. Oh, go
I
ahead.
was just going to dovetail. I appreciate your coming up to share what you do with your own son, and I know one thing that we'll, I'm sure, explore too is, you know, I hear you say what the school should be doing, and I don't disagree with that, but I totally agree too that it's a partnership with parents at home. So also giving, I mean, you're right there. So, you know, even enlisting you and others to give tools to other parents, you know, how do you initiate those discussions, right? I mean, I've read countless articles. Best time to talk to your kid is when you're driving, so nobody's looking at each other. You overhear their conversations. You be the one driving your kids around so you can hear the talk. You know, you're the one staying up at 11 and 12 at night, whatever their curfew is, so that you can catch them coming in the door. I've done the breath test, right? Come here, you know, breathe on me. I want to smell you before you go back to your room. And, you know, do I trust? Yes. Am I foolish? I hope not. And so to partner that way, too, I think is very important. So thanks.
Yeah, I want to say, Jared, I drug test my son. And I'll drug test my daughter when she gets beyond her 5th grade. But so thank you as a parent for stepping up and doing that. So.
Can I ask one more question?
If you step up to the mic,
why aren't we doing 7th and 8th graders as well? Because it is starting there. They're smoking, they're drinking, they're getting their hands on pot, and they're getting on painkillers too. I don't know. I coach youth wrestling, youth baseball here in Muskego. I hear some of the stuff going on.
It's a question that I asked myself. And the answer I gave myself, and I'm only one member on the board, is we have to make a first step somewhere. Mm-hmm. And but I asked myself that same question.
Right. I just think the earlier we catch them, the better.
Yeah.
We got to deter it when it's starting, not after the fact.
Correct.
But I understand what you're saying too. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so like Dr. Thompson said, we'll be back in July 14th. Okay. 14th, I believe. And that will be our 3rd reading. So we may vote on it on that day unless we defer or table it for some reason. So if there are any questions, you have about a month now to look over the materials again and send any questions in or call if there's anything that comes up in your mind. And I'm sure that our discussion on, I believe it's the 14th, will be Monday, will be interesting. And we can decide if we're going to move forward at that time or not. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next discussion item is 2014-15 budget.
So I just wanted to give the board an update. Please feel free to leave if you don't want to listen.
Thank you. Good night.
I just wanted to give the board an update that actually today was the last day that we get all of our aid payments from DPA. We also have our final open enrollment numbers, but we get all that information today, and so we're gathering all of that information, and we'll have a better update for the board at the beginning of July where we ended up with the 13-14 budget. Historically, on average, we've rolled about $700,000 in the fund balance on an annual basis, aside from the projects that the board approved. And so when we did talk about the weight room piece, there was the conversation of will we be able to fund that within the current funds without rolling into fund balance and then taking it back out. I believe we will be able to do so. So that's going to be our focus for that project. And again, you'll have more information in July.
So what do we have to look forward to next?
For budget.
Sure. What's coming in July?
So we will have, we'll show like a budget to actual document, how we started off the year, where we ended up. We had our pre-audit this past week, and so we'll have some more final information. So we'll see a budget to actual and how we looked compared to where we started.
Okay.
Where we are with revenues, how our revenues came in as compared to where we projected. So more of a budget to actual. Nothing extremely exciting, probably a spreadsheet or two.
Did you want to speak on this topic?
No.
Budget? Okay. Anything from board? Pretty exciting stuff. You won't have an opportunity until July 14th to talk about the budget again.
Somehow we'll manage.
I'm fine.
We're not waiting for a vote.
Okay.
Okay, next discussion item. Wise dash local.
Okay, Tommy's here to give an update. We talked a little bit about this at a previous meeting. Tony?
Yes, so there is a 15-minute video I'm going to show right now. Attached to this agenda item, I had 3 documents that were different from the previous time that we introduced this. So the last time I spoke about this was informational. And as a quick overview, this is a dashboard that provides live and local data. We also have access to a dashboard called WiseDash-Secure. And that is what's called lagging data, data that's been reported to the state level as a requirement. Test scores as one example, but that's typically old data. WiseDash-Local allows us to use live data from Infinite Campus. So as test scores go in, as one example, we have STAR that's going to be coming up, MAC testing, WKC results, of course. Anything local can be added to the system immediately and be uploaded right away. The goal is that if we have WiseDash-Secure and WiseDash-Local, they'll look the same. Same formats, same front end, which means when we train staff how to use them, we're not training in multiple systems. It allows us to be a lot more efficient. But more importantly, we're going to be doing this with quite a few other districts in the state. So we're part of a cohort of 5 districts alone. So we have districts like Green Bay, Kettle Moraine, Monona Grove, Sun Prairie, Muskegon, Norway. And we are a part of a governance board that's driving the process for what this looks like. So ironically, we wouldn't have that option with any other software. We're actually building it with what we need and what we want. So it's a great opportunity for us. The 2 documents, besides the talking points, one is the contract. CISA is the financing arm that's used to allow districts to subscribe. So that's not uncommon. You've looked at the contract for CISA services for other things. This would be another line item. The initial cost was in that $30,000 range, a little bit of sticker shock. Our current cost is $20,293, give or take a penny or two. And what we'll see is those costs start to drop as more districts get on board. And also there'll be a cost recovery. As those districts do get on board, those monies will start coming back to the initial 5 districts. The next rollout, cohort 2, if you will, again, we're a part of cohort 1, or we'd like to be. Cohort 2 is January of 2015. So we're not waiting years for the next cohort group. We're waiting roughly 6 months once the school year begins. So it's something that, again, we very much look forward to. It'd be nice to have that hand in what we do, and we can bring in a lot of processes for data. Because ultimately our goal is to get classroom data, make it accessible for our teachers, to have it formatively and daily, not just when we have our data summits, when we have those formal opportunities. Those are still valuable, but why not get it now instead of later? Questions? Chris?
I've got one. So this WiseDash local, is that, I've been looking at this WiseDash Secure, the DPI.
Yep.
Is that secure? Or WiseDash Secure?
Secure is there's a public version that...
I think I'm using the public one.
Correct.
Yeah, and...
Districts also have a private to district staff members.
Okay. And just to highlight, I've written scripts and I've pulled data that probably have kept me from having to bother Julie And I mean, I'm amazed at what is out there and what I can pull and when go through the agenda. I can literally answer so many questions. So what else will I be able to do as a board member with this local?
Right. So local is accessible. We can extend it to board members. Ironically, it'll be full results as soon as we get them. So again, our assessment results, we could have behavior, we could have attendance, we have all those things brought into the system at a dashboard level. So it's not something that I would say would be directly benefiting the public, because that's of course what Wise-Secure Public is for. I've got all these different versions, which you've been using. And so imagine that one version is for staff and the public to use for older data. And then this Wise-Local is to use for live data.
Okay.
Correct. That'll be the difference.
Yeah, I think it's, I like big data. So there's a lot of information there to get pulled out, and so.
Chris loves data.
It's all about the process.
Process of data.
So right now for our dashboard, what are we?
We're kind of a mixture of things. We currently use Tableau. We've had that instance in the district for a few years now, 9 to be specific. And we've also created some dashboards, manual dashboards. We used Kim Crosby. She created our dashboard versions for all the buildings across the district, which looks very nice. Our goal is to simulate that within Tableau for now, but if we can go forward with Wise-Local to simulate the same dashboards in Wise-Local.
So that saves time and being able to...
Right, and again, the real time saver comes with a system that's supported from the DPI. You know, they're investing $850,000 to have this instance operational, but at the same time, in not so many words, we have support of the DPI, we have support of multiple districts. We're not the lone user, which is what happened, I think, with Tableau. We had a few districts neighboring, but not many. So now we can create consortiums and cohorts of people that are actively using the system, and that way we're not going to waste time or lose the effectiveness of the data.
So the Tableau, how much is that cost?
I believe it's just under $12,000.
And then the time...
Everyone else tries like this.
Altogether.
It's about flat.
How long
Goes
does it
down,
take
we're
to
going
get
up.
into a dashboard?
The data itself?
Yeah.
Let me describe the process. Great question. So there'll be things called connectors. Imagine a bridge between the system, Wise-Local, and the different assessment types. We're paying for those connectors. Actually, the DPI is paying for those connectors. So that bridge is wide open. So when map testing or discovery ed testing, when those results come in, they'll automatically come into the system. We won't have to hit a manual process and manually upload those scores. They'll actually come in because the bridge has been created. So when that data comes in, as soon as it's available, it should be in the hands of our staff.
Just out of curiosity, how detailed does that go down? Does it show how individual students does?
It can, yes.
And then there's other ways to get an accumulation.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where you do the hover. You can do two things. You can look at the dashboard, or you can click for the spreadsheet, essentially. It's a CSV, and allows you to look at actual names and the categories within them. So you'll have the access to it. A lot of times, when we present to in a PowerPoint presentation, we're taking a picture of it, and it's not interactive. But in the system itself, it'll have the hover results. You can hover and see numbers, what it includes for demographic, etc. Otherwise, again, we can click a button and see actual names within the system. So, which is, again, an option we have now in Wise-Secure. Because I know it sounds odd. We're literally going to have two systems side by side. One sitting on a server that's used for Wise-Secure, another one sitting on a server that's used for Wise-Local. And they're actually not housed by the DPI. There was a concern by some districts about whether or not the data that we'd be uploading into Wise-Live or local would be accessible by the DPI. And we have a specific clause within the contract that says it will not be. We can turn it over to them if we choose, but they cannot request it, and they will not have access to it unless it's authorized by the district.
So how would, if DPI wanted full access, It wouldn't just be us correcting it, it would be, are you talking about our local?
Just the local.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Secure, well, they already have that right, and we do upload for that purpose. So, but ultimately, the local version is our data. We retain that access to our own selves and that.
So what are we looking at? What are we looking at ballpark for payback once other district comes on? Come on.
Good question. So they did some cost estimation. Please don't quote me on it. This is just through conversation. But if another 5 to 10 districts were to get on board, if 5 get on initially, another 5 to 10, so we either double or triple that amount, we're looking at having at least a third of that cost come back to the district. So again, it all has to do with how many come back. Those numbers will go to it because at that point, the fees are paid for. What we're really building is a maintenance fund.
Right.
So that as we need to replace a server, replace licensing, that fund builds itself. So I don't have an exact dollar amount, but figure, let's just say $6,000 to $7,000 could be our initial amount within cohort 2 joining.
So is there any plans to present this at conferences or?
Yes. Julie, if you don't, or Kelly, if you don't mind me saying, we've been asked by CISA 1 to present to the other districts in CISA 1 on what WISE-Local is. And we'll be joined by Kevin Moraine, so Bob White will be there as well. And of course, Pat DeClotz. So it would be a chance for the CISA 1 districts to hear more about it in a live setting. And it would be at a PAC meeting with other superintendents.
So as the thought process, it expands out CISA 1 and then hopefully out statewide.
Ironically, you can almost draw an L for the districts. You kind of go towards that Madison area, Sun Prairie, over to Kettle-Moraine, Muskego, up to Green Bay. We have interest from Appleton and Oshkosh. So we're starting to see those segments, which would be CISA 1, CISA 6, and 7. I don't know what CISA is for Madison. I don't really know that offhand. Anyway, noting that Kurt Kiefer, Assistant Superintendent for the state, is behind this project, we could just say whispers about it, and it would catch fire really quick. Because in the end, it's not only going to be presented through our listservs in those items, it will also become very common for presentations just like we're doing at the PAC meeting. So SLATE is the tech conference for our state of Wisconsin. I could see there being quite a bit of buzz and presentation about it at that point too.
Well, it seems the success is going to come with the amount of data that's, good data that's entered.
Correct. Well, we've been very deliberate about exactly what type of data we're looking for, particularly in phase 1. What is important to us. Ironically, every district in the first cohort is an infinite campus district. So we've been able to focus our time and energy and efforts and dollars on what appeals to infinite campus districts. But our next rounds will have to include Skyward, Power School, to name a few others. So it'll become more inclusive. But certainly there are, I'm not going to give you the percentages, but there are quite a few districts with infinite campus in the state. So it's definitely to our advantage.
So it's nice for our district to be leading in an area such as this. It's interesting, Julie and I were just interviewing somebody for Tahoe actually today, and one of her comments was, you guys must be a very innovative district, and talked about, some of the things that we're involved in. And so it's wonderful. Thank you, Tony, for reaching out and taking the risk to take part in that consortium of districts and really build that program so that it can serve our students through our teachers. So thank you very much for doing that.
Not yet.
Sunday school?
No.
Okay. So.
Yes. I guess I have something to say, but it's not on the agenda. It was supposed to be. There's some miscommunication.
What item?
I'm Robin Scholl, special education teacher at Mnsd High School.
Hey, Rob.
I was told to come because my name would be mentioned. But here I am.
That's the consent agenda. So back. Oh, okay. So yes, that's actually our new hires. So Robin, that was actually our first item was our consent agenda. So information follow-up is coming. I don't know if you would
Yes.
allow.
Yes.
Why don't you just have a seat for a moment, Robin? I went around and introduced myself to so many people. I apologize. I didn't connect with you, Robin, and and made you sit here until 10:15. But we'll get to you in a minute. Sure.
At least now you know what our school board meetings are. And you do not have to come to another one. Okay.
Are you talking to her or me?
You will be lying to everyone. Okay. All right, now I lost my place, but we'll get back on track here. So we're done with that at this time. Okay. And then information follow-up.
Okay, and actually, Robin, if you'd like to come up and introduce.
I didn't know if I needed to fill one of these out.
No, you do not. Welcome,
Okay.
Robin.
So hi everyone.
Hi, Robin.
Board. I'm Robin Scholes. I got the call from Kari Olson, Special Education Director, that she would be considering me for employment. And then I got the news from Human Resources that I should come here today. So here I am. And just a little bit about me. I don't know how this works because no one else introduced themselves as a new employee. So I'm a special ed teacher right now at Hamilton High School. It's my first year as a special ed teacher. So I'm finishing up. My last day of school is tomorrow. I'm very excited about this. But prior to that, I taught public speaking at the college level. So I'm really excited to be working for the high school. And I know what it takes to get to college, and I know what I'm looking for as college students. So I'm really looking forward to helping Muskego High School students get to the next level. And the students that I saw today, excellent public speaking skills, by the way. The fact that they care so much about their school and the fact that you guys all listened to them, it really makes me happy to become a part of this. So if you have to approve of me being here, I appreciate it.
We already did.
Okay, so
I'm sorry you had to sit there.
no, as a public speaking teacher, I'm like, I was like, this is an excellent job for the students. So thank you so much, and yeah, I look forward to seeing you, and maybe not at this time of night, but thank you very much for listening.
Congratulations.
Robin, we'll see you on August 19th for your first day.
I am so excited for the summer and then for August.
I just want to ask you one question.
Sure.
What were your responsibilities at Hamilton this year?
I was a co-teacher in an algebra classroom, but I am a cross-categorical special education teacher. I had a caseload of 25 students, 25 to 30, and yeah, and my background is in emotional behavioral disorders, so my specialty is that.
And Hamilton has one more day.
Professional development.
Oh, okay. Students are done.
Students are done.
Okay, well, welcome, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you in August.
Okay, well, have a good summer, everyone.
Thank you. Same to you.
Robin Scholes, Robin Scholes.
Yes. Like the foot doctor.
Any other information follow-up? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 10:19 p.m.